We've got clips of Jessica Tarlov on Fox News fighting the good fight as she always does, with some great points being made in the interim. So let's go over this and just jump in where context is needed.
Hey you! Yes, you! Did you know we have memberships for as low as $3 a month? You can help the channel grow, reach new heights, and help protect democracy. And you get a long list of exclusive perks, from members-only polls to getting my videos early. The link is always in the description of every video. If you want, go ahead and check that out. And thank you guys.
She's not just saying that she's a change candidate. The American public thinks that. So in the latest set of polling, she's 9-10 points up on who represents change. And we know from the debate that her most effective line was, "I am not Joe Biden." So obviously they didn't conference about what he was going to say there. I do think it gives her foreign policy bona fides that she needs to step into this role. But, you know, if you want to say she said holistically 3 times within 40 seconds, sure, that did happen. But if people were watching the interview, they also heard that she's going to give tax cuts to 100 million people, that you're going to get a $6,000 child tax credit, that she's going to build 3 million new housing units, that she's not going to, quote, apologize for going after corporations, that you can actually raise the corporate tax rate.
And this is just the game that the right will always play. Forego the substance because they know substance is a losing battle for them, especially with Trump at the head of their party, and instead just hyper-fixate on whatever they can to create a social media or media narrative. Don't speak about policy, speak about the stutter if it's Joe Biden, or speak about repeating a word if it's Kamala, or whatever it can be in the moment for them, which is why I'm saying that she has absolutely no reason to heed to the narratives MAGA is creating. It's not resonating with Democrats. No real Democrat I've ever spoken to feels the way MAGA pretends that we should. They just want more opportunities to attack her and are trying to create something that sticks while nothing has landed so far, where if you watch Kamala speak, she lays out her policies pretty clearly, her plan, her goals. All of this is clearly articulated with the way she's going to fund it, the way she's going to implement it, while, as we'll get into after this next clip, Trump does none of that and instead goes on like a delusional old man.
We heard from Donald Trump on a range of issues, which did include the border, but also that Nancy Pelosi should be prosecuted for January 6th. Hunter Biden's laptop always makes an appearance. Ukraine is gone. And then my favorite, praising Operation Wetback. So I don't see how someone who isn't already politically dug in and knows who they're going to vote is going to watch someone who maybe repeats a word or two and someone who was talking about Operation Wetback and not know who they want to choose for this election or who they think would be more competent and ready for the job. And I should note on that, she was up 20 points on who has the mental fitness and competency to be able to do this job. And him rambling about everything that darts into his mind does not mean that he is capable of doing this job. It means that he can stand there and hog attention.
This is the exact point that I like to make. No one that's not already in the MAGA cult walks away from a Trump rally and thinks, you know, I'd vote for this guy. He seems presidential. Or the debate that they had. Nobody walked away thinking Trump won or they'll vote for him if they weren't already going to. At this point, he's so unattached from reality. He lacks substance on any real policy. He's just speaking about vengeance against Democrats. So the only people voting for him are those who cried themselves to sleep that he didn't get 8 years in 2020. He talks more about locking Nancy Pelosi up or delusional rants like, we won the revolution in 1776 by controlling the airports, or sharks and electrocution and water, and he never explains how he's going to do anything. I mean, I watched most of his rallies and he hasn't expanded on a policy position a single time this entire year. He doesn't go into how he'll pay for his tax cuts. He doesn't go into specifics on his tariffs. He doesn't even explain how he'll do the mass deportation that he talks about all the time. Meanwhile, if you watch one Kamala Harris rally or interview, you know all of her positions. You know how she's going to pay for them. You know the specifics of how she plans to implement them. You can actually be undecided and walk away from a Harris event thinking, this is someone that I could vote for. She could benefit me. It's night and day between her and Trump. And that's why she's the only candidate in this race that people think is mentally fit for the job. And it's also why MAGA will instead focus on her repeating words rather than attack the substance of her policy.
I don't like corruption, and I really hate incompetence. This city has got some serious problems. And so this is a distraction. He says he's not going to worry about it. His lawyers will take care of it, but he'll have to spend time on it.
Yeah, you know, Jessica, you may be a communist, pinko, radical-loving freak, but even you must be worried about the alternatives to Eric Adams.
Like Andrew Cuomo?
No, I mean, what would happen if he had to go now?
Well, there would be a special election, and I think it's quite feasible that Andrew Cuomo would throw his hat in the ring, and I think would probably, I know that they're good friends, but an indictment is different than just trying to take your friend's job. If Kathy Hochul removed him, which I've seen no evidence that she's going to do that, but I think that New Yorkers would probably want a candidate as close to a Bloomberg type as possible. The city was cleaner. There were enough beds for every homeless person in the city, and it operated a lot more smoothly.
This stuff sickens me to my absolute core. Since AOC got elected in New York has pushed out some of the most despicable Democrats known to man. Eric Adams is practically a conservative who masquerades as a Democrat. He's a cop-loving, racist, tough on crime, anti-immigration piece of shit, if I'm being frank. And Cuomo isn't much better. He's largely corrupt himself. Neither should be in positions of leadership. Neither should be considered seriously. Eric Adams needs to resign immediately. I mean, the charges against him are appalling, and again, terrible person anyway. That being said, this Fox News host says that she doesn't like corruption or incompetence, yet she's defending Donald Trump, who is both corrupt, liable for fraud, 34 counts of falsifying business records, and incompetent. Couldn't pass any legislation he wanted, even with the House and Senate majority, failed us abroad, and now talks about winning the revolution through controlling the airports. I mean, MAGA have unfortunately just given themselves no leg to stand on to use this as an attack, as they passionately defend their convicted felon who has 54 indictments, who says that if political opponents are being indicted, it has to be lawfare. The only consistent position for them would be to defend Eric Adams, say it's lawfare, say the DOJ is corrupt, all of this, which Trump has kind of came out to do, or else just expose that they are literal hypocrites who will say whatever to carry water and defend Donald Trump, but not hold the same standard for anyone who's not a Republican.